Well, hello and welcome to the Smells Like Money podcast. Join me, Suzanne Chin Taylor, the DooDoo Diva, as I interview guests who are making an impact on how we manage and operate systems for conveying and treating wastewater. As a veteran of the wastewater, trenchless, and civil infrastructure industry, each week I'll be bringing you industry know-how from industry pros who know how. Join me each week as I speak with representatives of organizations that are utilizing disruptive or new technologies and methods, and executives who are excited to share how to be successful and sustainable in our vital industry. So whether you want to learn about the latest trends in technology, in treatment or trenchless, gain tips on training and retaining great talent, or simply how to be more efficient, productive, or profitable, this podcast is for you. Ready? Let's dive right in. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the DooDoo Divas Smells Like Money podcast. Today, we are visiting with Daryl Dorman, who is the Director of Operations of Allmax Software. And Daryl and I met through LinkedIn. It's a wonderful thing. And he shared with me a really interesting technology tool that I wanted to bring on the show and introduce to operators, especially treatment plant operators, as this is an incredible time-saving tool. And before you get it all into a panic, thinking, oh, how much is it going to cost me? Actually, the price of this, and I'll let Daryl disclose that, it really surprised me as to what a small investment this is and what it could really, really bring for a wastewater plant. And so with that, welcome to the show, Daryl.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to talk a little more with you.
All right. So tell me a little bit about the history of Allmax and then the development, like how this tool that we're going to be talking about in a few minutes, how it all came into being and like why and why now.
Yeah, thanks so much. So Allmax software has been around for a long time, since the 1990s, and has had different software aspects to it. So Operator 10 software is one of the ones that you talked about for the water and wastewater treatment plants. And we also have a maintenance management software as well. And what we really want to do is help people, like you said, do things more efficiently, because there's only so much time. And any way that software can help put things into one spot instead of 7 different places and just do things more quickly and efficiently, it's really the way what we want to do for our customers. And so, I think as far as why now, we see a lot of customers who are kind of doing the same old struggles, but not trying anything new. And so what we want to do is really help them and show them that there's better ways to do it.
Excellent. Because, and that's when you were saying why now, the timing couldn't be more perfect, because we all know that we're dealing with that silver tsunami. We're all struggling and trying to find ways to bring new blood into the industry. And it's going to take some time, and we're at critical mass. And every single day, more and more plants are being forced to get the same amount of work done, but with fewer human resources. And so it is going to become, paramount for them to embrace technology. And of course, they worry about cost, but this is why this was so intriguing for me, is that they need to embrace these technology tools so that they don't burn out, so that they're able to keep up with the demand of the work that they have to get done. The work's not going to go away, but they're going to have fewer and fewer people to do it, but still in the same amount of hours that they have to accomplish it. And so with that said, this really caught my eye when you mentioned about the real benefit of this is to help facilitate and speed up the process of something that plant managers have to do every day and every month. And that is the DMR and the MMR. And so I'm going to let you share a little story that you did with me about one operator and how much time it was taking him to do those reports all the time. And with that, I'll let you tell the story, because you tell it better than I ever could.
Yeah, well, as you know, there's a lot of data, a lot of information that just has to be recorded every single day, sometimes hourly, for these different things. Right. And your eyes can get pretty numb staring at these numbers.
I
And
can
so
imagine.
one thing that our software can really help do is, first of all, if you accidentally fat finger a number and, you're supposed to between a 2 and 10 reading and you put 205, you may not catch it yourself right away, or 25, right? And our software can quickly kind of catch that note and put it back in the right parameter. But I was talking to one gentleman, like you mentioned, who was doing his, monthly net DMR report, which many states have kind of a standardized report for that. And they're very specific on how it has to go in the right buckets every single time. And I asked him how much time he was taking to do that. And he said, well, Daryl, if I don't get distracted, I can get it done in about 3 hours. And he said, but I'm always distracted, and so that time could quickly balloon to, 5 hours, 6 hours. I mean, think about when you're in the middle of something and someone comes into the room and you have to get back into what you were doing, and you spend a few minutes just trying to figure out where you were before. And so that's a pretty common thing, like you mentioned, with people tasked on doing more jobs and more responsibilities. Right. And so with our software, we help standardize those reports. So by state, it's the same time, same thing every time. And you just push a few clicks and all the data is there, and it goes right to where you want it to go. And you can just put it right into that state submission portal. And I think also we see where people have different kind of silos of information a lot of times, right? Where you've got maybe a lab down here, and you've got the main plant operations, and there's not really a great way to communicate between. So having a way to kind of share that knowledge that you're doing together is another great way to help save some time.
So in this gentleman's case, the hours that he was spending, if he were using a tool like yours, what would it take him to generate that report or reports that he has to, time-wise?
It'd be minutes. It'd be minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So from
because
hours to
everything is
minutes.
From hours to minutes. Exactly. Yeah.
And so the system talks to all of the other systems that are in the plant for capturing that data, if I'm understanding correctly.
Right. So we can link up with a SCADA system, for example, that's already capturing the data at all times, and take that SCADA information directly into our software. And so it goes into different fields. And so those fields can then cascade throughout the entire system. So whereas maybe if, before you're using different Excel sheets for different tests that you're doing, and you've got to make one change here, then you've got to change it in the other Excel sheets. With ours, if you make one change, it's going to make that change in that particular field throughout the entire system.
I remember you had mentioned, before we came online, about that if you had these different data silos, if there was something that changed in the way you had to track something, then you would have to manually go through, or, I know what it was, about a calendar. What do you do in the event of a leap year?
Yep. So a lot of times these Excel sheets are done monthly. And, so then every new month you have to redo your Excel sheet, and you usually have formulas tied into that for, average daily readings. And so, every month can be different. And some days there's 30 days, some days there's 31, and some days there's 28. And so what the system can do, because it has a calendar feature, is to help understand when you have those changes in days. And so you're not having to do any sort of manipulation. And then from a historical view, you can set date ranges, and then you can pull up the entire year or multiple years worth of data and information, as opposed to having to go through 12 different Excel sheets for each month that you're doing, but depending on how you're organizing it.
Right. And manually compile. And so with that, I'm giving you some share for those of you who are watching. You're going to see Daryl's going to share his screen with us and give us a little overview of a visual overview of how this software actually works. And for those of you tuning in, you can always, come back and watch the video. But Daryl, if you can just kind of narrate or give those who are only able to listen, what we're seeing here on the screen. And I see this is the dashboard of the software itself. And there's a beautiful little graphic diagram here on the left of all the different pieces of what things are, what things are going on in the, I would guess you'd say, the workflow.
Yeah, that's right. So as we know, every person who is working in the wastewater plant has different things that are interesting or of note to them, I should say. And so what the system can do is every user can create their own dashboard of kind of what they want to see, kind of like a favorites list, if you
Interesting.
will. And so we've got kind of the flow chart on the left, and we see some different, influent and effluent uh, ranges and kind of averages and things like that. And what this really allows you to do is to, kind of really figure out what you need to look at every day with those different charts. And then
Okay.
as you're going through and creating different levels and formulas within the product, it works just like Excel. So you can put those different formulas in there just like you would previously. And that allows you to create those different parameters of what you are measuring and how often you're measuring it and how you want to kind of interact with those. So you can end up with kind of a very Excel looking sheet, and we can customize these to even look exactly how you have it now, from familiarity standpoint. But you can see I've got a bunch of different things that I'm measuring, from flow to pH, BOD, TSS. And one thing I can do is I have my daily readings here, and I can go through and take out certain columns, add certain columns. If I have a bunch of blanks, I can take those out of the system as well. But having that ability to kind of figure out what you've got and where those readings are, as well as when you made a mistake. So if I put something that exceeds the limit, it'll pop up an alert to me, letting me know that I have an issue. And if it really is an issue, it wasn't just a typo, I can also put a note in this area, which will help me figure out, why it reached that previously. Is that helpful?
Yes, it is. Now, when you were saying about the dates, set the date range so you could look at your daily, but you could also look at your monthly.
That's right. And so if you can see the top over here, it
Yes.
shows my date range here. And so I can type in certain dates and kind of pull up all of that information from certain ranges and go back as far as I need to. So a lot of SCADA systems don't really have an historian interface. And so putting in a software like ours does allow you to go back over historical and different measurements and things like that.
Now, does will the system work and tie in with most of the popular SCADA systems? It's not proprietary that you have to use a particular SCADA platform?
It is not.
Okay.
Nope. We can look up with different ones. Anyone who has Wonderware, we have a direct link with. That's probably the easiest one to link up. But any SCADA system, we have another interface tool which helps connect with that. Absolutely.
Wow. What are we looking at here now?
Yeah, so we also have different ways to kind of pull different reports that you want to put into some of those customized aspects of it. And then you can kind of choose different fields and end up building some charts as well. And again, you can look at different date ranges that you might show with that, kind of highlighted here of what the date ranges might be. So maybe it's a full month, last 7 days. I can put different things on the charts here as well, which can be really helpful when you're kind of trying to figure out what's in your plan.
Okay.
And then this can all be, multiple data points exported to different, PDFs or Excel, whatever you want to put it into.
So it makes sharing the data a lot easier. Now, we're getting back to, the reporting. So it's got all of these. Now, how does it interface with those special forms that the states want it a certain way? Does it export it into that form?
Yep.
Oh, yep. This was what I was interested in.
Yep. Perfect.
Net DMR. Yes. All right.
Yeah. So what we really do here is we can set these up by state. So this one is for Ohio.
Okay.
And so you can put the permit in there and the discharge numbers and all that information. And so as you put all of your measurements here that you need, and it's got everything all in the exact format that the state's going to want it in, and then this allows you to print it out and sign it, which allows you need the wet ink in many cases, as well as just copying and paste it into the state portal that you need to get it going for you. And so these reports can all be customized on how you want it, but you can kind of see that this is what you'd expect out of a report, not a spreadsheet. right? So it takes all of that spreadsheet data that we've been inputting in the other aspects of it and putting it into a more visually appealing report, I guess, or at least state mandated. But you can make it do whatever report you want it to do.
But I'm also seeing that the other advantage of this is perhaps eliminating a lot of the potential for human error.
That is right. So from a compliance standpoint, back to our story of the 3 to 6 or 8 hour input, the more that you're getting lost in the data, the more chances are that you can put some information wrong, or put it into the wrong spreadsheet, or put your nitrogen total and your oxygen total, or whatever that might be, right? And so having it where it's uniform and it's the same information that you need month after month, pulling from the same location in your software, can really help with the compliance aspect, which of course is a very important part of the job.
Right. Absolutely. Well, this is really interesting. So here's the nice surprise. If someone wanted to incorporate this into their plant, how difficult is it to bolt it on or use it? What's needed in order to work with it, and what are they looking at cost-wise?
Yeah, great question. So there are some variables involved here, of course, right? So one thing that we want to try and do for customers is provide a turnkey solution. So if you have current Excel sheets that you're using, what we'll usually do is you can send those to us, and for a small consulting fee, we'll create those reports and those sheets in the system for you. But the software itself is all based on seats or user licenses, and so you pay for how many computers you need it installed on, usually just a couple in these plants, right? And that's going to be under a $10,000 purchase price. And then you usually pay about 20% of that for the annual service fee, which includes all support and help, any updates to the software, and everything else. And as far as the installation aspect, we would get online with you, train you in about a day, typically, initially. And again, having those reports as turnkey is really helpful. And then we're always available to help. So if after you bring some new people on, you can always call us and we can offer some assistance, as well as a support portal we have with some knowledge base articles and some videos on how to use kind of the basic features of the software.
And then it doesn't require any no special hardware, just, your standard PC based computer. Now, does this work on Windows, Mac, and or both?
It works anywhere. Windows is preferred, and it is a local install at this time. We are looking at cloud hosted options in the near future. But a lot of wastewater plants do need local installs, with internet issues and just security aspects anyway.
Right.
And so yeah, we do that, but then you can have different users. So you can have more users than the number of instances involved, which allows you to put some of that customized dashboards and everything else.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for taking us for the tour of this. I think this is fascinating, just from a time-saving standpoint in getting time back.
Yeah.
Getting time back, when you're being tasked to do more and more, and not just that, but the accuracy and compliance. We all worry about that, because if you're not compliant, they're going to start adding those zeros to those fines and those fees.
Yeah.
And so if people want to know more about this and maybe have a demo with you or a member of your team, and how they could see if this would be a good solution for their particular plant and situation, how can they get more information?
Yes, and just one quick thing to add before that is, I think one of the biggest comments I hear when I'm talking to people is, I've been looking, I've known I've needed something like this for a long time, but I haven't had the time to look for it until you gave me a call.
There you go.
Yeah,
There's
and
the
so that,
conundrum,
I get that, I mean, I wish I got it every day, but I get it pretty frequently, and that's really the biggest thing is until you have something like this, you're so busy just trying to catch up that you don't have any time to look at bigger picture items like this, right?
Right.
So our website is just allmaxsoftware.com. You can reach me directly at 541-246-2211. And you can also just email sales@allmaxsoftware.com.
All right. And it's allmaxsoftware.com.
Yes,
So
ALLMAX.
MAX software.com.
Yeah.
Well, Daryl, thank you for, sharing this with us. I think this is really an exciting development. And it might seem like dry and boring, but I'm just thinking, man, just getting back time. I recently hired another executive VA to help me just to do this one task. And literally it's giving me 2 hours of my time back a day.
Wow.
Just to have someone take care of something as small as email.
Yeah.
And I know it seems silly, but imagine when you think from a productivity standpoint, how much could you do in those 2 hours that you got back that would be more productive and more meaningful for what you have to do for your job?
Yep. Yeah. And the question there is,
paperwork and reporting.
Yeah, what more can you do with those 2 hours, right?
Exactly.
And there's a lot.
There's a lot. You'd be surprised. And also freeing. It's just, knowing, at one point in my career, I had to do these reports, not on a daily basis, but a weekly basis. And just, man, it got to be a drudgery where you couldn't wait until that task was done. You knew it had to be done. And then, but after it was done, I was like, oh God, now I can relax. Imagine instead of feeling that weight sitting on you like, oh God, I got to get to this. Just be able to hit a button and know it's done. And okay, moving on. Next thing.
Yeah, well, I think especially in this industry where these reports, like you said, they can feel like what am I doing with my life? Right?
Yeah.
But because most of the time everything's perfect. Most of the time you're not going to see the abnormalities and everything like that. But the other side of that is when there is something, it's a big deal. Right. It's affecting people's health and life and everything.
Well,
right.
I think the other advantage, what you were saying earlier, instead of if you wanted to see trends or track something, you'd have to look at 12 different spreadsheets and kind of manually compare them. This tool will allow you, it will do that analysis for you on date ranges.
Yeah. Yep. And keeping that data centralization is huge because like you said, you've got different spreadsheets, different people. No one knows exactly what the most updated one is, and so this takes care of all that for you.
It's excellent. Well, again, thank you for coming on the show and sharing that with us. And for those of you tuning in, thanks for joining us this week. And until next time, keep it flowing. Thanks so much for joining me, the DooDoo Diva, on this week's episode of Smells Like Money. What stood out to you this week? Share your takeaways by leaving me a review. You can find out more about the new technologies, creating sustainable solutions, and insights on how to succeed in our vital industry by subscribing to the show. Whether you want to learn about the latest trends in wastewater infrastructure, treatment, or trenchless, you've got it all right here at Smells Like Money. If you're an industry expert and would like to be considered as a guest for the show, book a quick chat with me by visiting calendly.com/the2it group/B-A-podcast-guest, or simply click the link in the show notes below. Until next week, a big shout out to all my industry friends and those who will be. You are my superheroes. Thanks for tuning in, keeping it flowing, and we'll see you all next week.